I Love Mortgage Brokering, episode 27.
Where the best mortgage brokers get better. I Love Mortgage Brokering with your host, Scott Peckford.
Hi, Broker Nation. I am thrilled to introduce our guest today, Michael Lloyd. He's the broker owner of Canadian Mortgage Experts DLC. He's been a broker for 15 years, and Canadian Mortgage Experts is the number one DLC franchise in the country. I'm absolutely stoked for this interview today. Mike, are you ready to rock?
I am ready to rock. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. So I always like to start off by, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I started lending way back in 1988 for a finance company. Went through credit unions and even at one point opened or was selling real estate briefly. But I've been a broker since 1999, originally with Mortgage Source, which merged into Invis. And since then, back in 2010, we started our DLC franchise. Since then, we have 75 brokers now. We have brokers all over Victoria, Cowichan Valley, Nanaimo, Red Deer, and then mostly in the Lower Mainland. And like you mentioned, we're the number one franchise now in Canada for DLC. We started in our first year, we were number 3. Now for the second year, we're number 1. Last year, we're number 1, and we're currently number 1. So it's a lot of fun.
How many franchises are with DLC, to give us some context?
I think it's 180.
180. So that's pretty impressive. And so how did you get into the mortgage business? Because nobody starts out as a little kid in a schoolyard saying, when I grow up, I want to be a mortgage broker. So what was your path?
I definitely didn't talk to a school counselor and say I want to be a mortgage broker. I stumbled into it like most of us. Like I mentioned, I was working in finance companies previously, and I liked lending. I had an idea I wanted to be a realtor, so I started in real estate for a brief moment, and it was like 3 or 4 months. But it was a great learning experience because I liked the flexibility and the entrepreneurship. But what I didn't like it was real estate. You have no control of the market. It's either hot or cold or whatever. But with our market, I mean, there's always people always have mortgages, and so I really like that part of it. So to me, mortgage brokering kind of combined the flexibility of real estate with the fun of lending, and you don't have to walk through stinky houses. So
right, and drive around in your car all day and stuff. Some people, I love that. I'm just as happy to sit in front of my desk and work.
Exactly.
So before we dive into your story, I always like to ask about a success quote that has impacted you. So can you share, because I love how quotes distill an idea down into a really compact, portable, that you can take with you. So can you share a quote that's really impacted you?
Yes. Last September, I went to the DLC conference in New Orleans, and we got to see Darren Hardy speak. And he has a book called The Compound Effect, and I just loved it. And one of the quotes from there is, you make your choices, and then your choices make you. I think it's so true. I mean, every single day we make millions of choices. We don't even think about it. It's automatic. And those choices end up affecting your whole life.
So that's a fantastic quote. You make your choices and your choices make you. So can you give an example? As a quote that sort of from last year, but how you've applied that recently sort of in your life or your business?
Yeah. I mean, we just day to day, I mean, getting up and getting out there. I mean, you have to make a choice. Are you going to, work hard today, or are you going to take the day off? And all of us face that every day. And I think that's, every little choice you make, like taking an hour off or taking the day off, that affects your outcome at the end of the year. And you can't avoid that. So I think it involves your whole life.
So it's a good thing to remind yourself of when you're thinking about going on Facebook and wasting a half an hour of your time.
Exactly. And all of a sudden it's 2 hours and you've got nothing to show for it.
I think sometimes Facebook, as much as I've quit it for a while. I went on this I quit for like a year, but it's one of those things that can be a real time suck if you're not careful with it. Darren
Hardy, once again, I follow a lot of stuff now, and one of the things he talks about is Facebook and all these stupid things we have in life that suck time away and they don't produce anything. And it's amazing when you break it down that way. Yeah, how much time we just give away. And then we always say, oh, we're all so busy. Well, yeah, because we're not being productive.
Mm-hmm. We're wasting our time. That's awesome. Another area that I like to talk about is failure. I know that for me as an entrepreneur and a mortgage broker and business owner, I've definitely made some mistakes and had some failures, but always looking back, there's always a lesson. So can you share an example of something that you had failed at, but looking back, the lesson that you learned from it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to fail to be successful. So, I mean, back in the good old days, back in like 2006, when now with hindsight it looks so easy, I decided to open an office in Penticton, the Okanagan. I grew up there and wanted to stay connected to the area. And while I loved going up there, I mean, it was great, but I could never find the right person to work in the office. And in the end, we ended up shutting it down, and it just ended up being a big time suck. And basically what I did was lose focus on what I do well. And from a book way back called In Search of Excellence, you got to stick to the knitting, and I learned a lot from that.
So this venture, when you decided to go into Penticton, so where was your office at the time?
My office was in South Surrey, and I opened the second office in Penticton, and I thought it would be great, and it just ended up both businesses suffered. So,
right.
Staying focused on your main business is really important.
So how do you, this is a question, sort of maybe a bit of a rabbit trail, but how do you manage having a brokerage with 75 agents and still broker? Because a lot of the people that I've been talking to say that it's really hard to do both. And so how are you doing that?
Extremely hard, but it's about systems. And we have a lot of systems in place. We use Gmail Business. We try to bring a lot of systems in place so that, I don't have to do a day-to-day kind of help somebody with their email that day or whatever. And I mean, obviously a lot of it has to do with the people we have, their experience, and they don't need their hand held every day. But it's a lot of systems and a lot of time management. I set time aside to work on my business, and I set time aside to work on the company business.
So how does that look like on a daily basis? So do you have is it the same every day, or is it flexible? So to know when you're going to work on your brokerage versus you're building your own book of business.
You have to be flexible because obviously things happen out of the blue. But I mean, most of the time what I try to do is in the mornings, work on our business, find out where we're at, work on current files, find out what I need to do to follow up with clients, that sort of thing. And then fit in the company stuff after that and work on it. But of course there's always fires. So, some of that stuff gets bumped out of the way.
So where just out of curiosity, where do the most of the fires come from? Does it come from your client base or from the 75 agents?
There's 75 agents.
Right. There's always something probably going on, right, that you have to jump into.
Yeah, I mean, from little things like not being able to get access to a lender, they want to submit a deal and they aren't sure how to do that or it's not working, to, having help with getting a deal approved or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
It sucks up a lot of time, but it's worth it. I mean, in the end, we're a fun team, and that's the thing, is it is a true team. It's not just a bunch of individuals, and so it never feels like, it's a drag. It's more, I want to help them succeed.
Right. And so talking about the processes, like you said, you got to have systems and processes to be a successful mortgage broker. But if you're going to be a broker and a brokerage owner, you need to really have good systems. And so I want to ask you about administrative. I'm going to ask you about sales and administrative, but first I want to ask about the administrative side. So I know successful brokers have administrative processes and they're willing to tweak them and adjust them to get a better result. So can you share an example of something that maybe wasn't working on the admin side and then what kind of change you made to improve it?
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly working on our systems. We try to automate certain parts and ensure we have as much face-to-face as we can. I mean, I'm the opposite of Dustin. I don't want to sit on the phone for hours doing applications. I prefer fairly short, 10 or 20-minute initial calls. So if a client calls me, I like to get an idea kind of what they're looking at. But from there, I kind of have a test, and that is to have them fill up my application online. And to me, if they go home and get their documents together and fill the application all out and it comes in the next morning, that to me means they're committed. And if they don't do it, then they're probably not all that committed. And time is the most important thing. And I don't want to waste a bunch of time with somebody who's just shopping for a rate. And once we get the application, we have an automatic email. So the next morning, that client gets an email from me, and it's a video of me saying, hey, thanks for the application. We're working on it. And so I try to include things like that so that I'm involved in the process. The client thinks that I'm working on it all the time. And I mean, let's face it, most clients think as soon as you hang up the phone that you're not working on their file, you're working on something else.
Mm-hmm.
So some of these systems I use to send out automatic emails and stuff so that they feel like they're being looked after, but yet, we're able to have time to work on it and get that deal approved.
So 2 questions. So what program do you use to manage manage your deals? We
use a system called Trello for keeping communication between our team internally. But we also I use Buyer Referral Only for the CRM portion. That's where we manage our, keeping notes and sending out those automatic emails. That all comes from the Buyer Referral Only system.
And this video that you send out for every client, is it a custom video or is it like a one-time video that you send out?
No, it's a one-time. It just says, hi, it's Mike. Thanks for sending in your application. It's basically to acknowledge that they sent in their application, that we've got it. A lot of people will email you or call you the next day and say, I'm not sure if you got it, and that kind of stuff. The email takes care of that. There's another one that says, thanks, we're working on it, and we're going to send it off for approval and give us 3 or 4 days, which of course is under promising because we can probably get it back faster.
Right.
So things like that.
I heard of a program that a company used. I think Jackson Middleton was telling me about it, that you can literally record a quick video to a client when they fill out an app or a form or something, and you send it to them. And he went to a website and he filled out a form, and within 10 minutes he had an email to him with a video saying, "Hey Jackson, thanks so much." It was actually personalized, and he just fell out of his chair. So
that's cool.
That's cool. I know. And so that's where we're going there. I mean, I think I love that idea. I haven't actually implemented it, but I've thought about using video a little bit more in the communication phase, just to build that rapport even before I meet a lot of my clients. But so do you meet your clients face to face, or is it typically all done by email and fax and online?
It's up to the client. I mean, we definitely try to get to meet them, but I mean, if they're not in the area or, they feel they're too busy, then I leave it up to them. I mean, obviously face to face, you build way more loyalty and you're going to get way more chance of referral in front of them. So we try to, but you're not going to force a client to come in if, we do. We try to get them in because you can control the environment. That's the other thing. I mean, I've gone to clients' houses and I still do once in a while, but I find you can't control the environment very well and they're not focused and it's really a waste of time half the time.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And so back to the video thing, how long ago did you implement this video, I got your app step?
Beginning of the year.
And what kind of feedback have you been getting on it?
Most people like it. I mean, I've never had a negative thing about it. The only negative sort of was somebody who said that we sure sent them a lot of emails, but I don't know if that was the only, I don't think she liked emails.
Right.
But everybody else, I mean, most of it's pretty silent. They just sort of, I don't know if they feel comfortable with it, but I mean, one area we do, that I like, that I thought I'd give you as a tip is one of the emails that comes out after that is an email that says, "Hey, when we're talking about mortgages, we have to bring up the life insurance, idea. And what I'd like to do is go to check with your work before we meet so that you've got information on what your insurance coverage is." And of course, most people don't end up doing that because they're too busy and they don't find time to do it. So when we sit down to meet with them and go through the plan, we can say, "Well, so what insurance coverage do you have?" And they'll say, "Well, I'm not sure. I kind of have something to work, I think, but I got to check." And that's a great lead in to say, "Well, that's why I don't really want you to leave without taking the insurance that we are going to offer you. You can cancel within 60 days. I don't mind, but I don't want you walking out without having any coverage because you don't know right now whether you have very good coverage." And most of the time, most people aren't even going to bother to go back and check afterwards. So.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, to me, it's our job to make sure they at least have some kind of coverage before they walk out the door.
Mm-hmm. You know what I like about what you're talking about is that, I talk about administrative processes and sales processes, but administrative processes, if done properly, can actually be marketing for your business, and it can be a part of the sales process. So, like, you were kind of you're pre-selling this idea of the insurance talk by sending out the email, and it's kind of an administrative process. But so I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think there's other ways you could do that too, and that's stuff I want to work on is follow up, later on after the mortgage is closed and using more automated emails to remind them administrative sort of things, but it's also part of your sales touch.
Right. There's a talk online you can find called the 100-day plan. If you type, I can't remember the guy's name, but basically he says what converts a client into a fan is it's 100 days after they've done business with you and sort of what their experience is. And so I've recently created a 100-day plan that I run for every client. So there's like a follow-up program for the first 100 days so that they never forget who we are. And awesome. You check it out online. It's called the 100-day. It's a 100-day. I'll put the link in the show notes. So I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but
yeah, that's great.
And I'll send it to you. So another on the sales side. So let's focus in on the sales part of the process. So I also notice successful brokers have a sales process and they're willing to tweak and adjust. And sometimes you have to because of what's happening in the market. So can you share an example of a part of your sales process that maybe wasn't working as well as it used to, and what kind of change you made to it to improve it?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the insurance side of it. We weren't getting very many insurance sales, and people would always say, we have coverage through work, and we wouldn't really be able to answer after that. It'd be like, yeah, okay. And that's why we tweaked that letter. But I mean, to me, the area I try to focus on is really listening more up front and finding out what the real, and this is a Joe Stump kind of thing from Buy Referral Only, and he just wants you to really learn what is really driving the client. And so often, if you ask those right questions up front, so what's important to you about buying this house, and what'll end up happening is that you get to know what's really behind what the person wants to do, and that information is handy to have because you can use it to control what happens later on. I mean, people will get nervous and they'll get buyer remorse and all sorts of things. And when you ask them for one more piece of paper, they freak out. Well, by having that knowledge up front that it's really important to them that their kids, for example, have their own room so they can study to get to university, that's going to be something you can bring up and say, listen, I know that I'm asking you for your NOAs, and I know this seems like a big hassle, but in the long run, isn't it important to have your kids in that house so they can have their own bedrooms and so they can study and go to university? And that brings people back to reality. And I think that's a big part of our job is to keep them focused on the big picture. So often we get caught up in the small stuff and it makes them more worked up too.
Mm-hmm. That's a great tip there because you're right. It's both remind them about what the purpose of this is for instead of the moment of the irritation of something they have to go get or that, the lenders requested something additionally and you're in the middle trying to manage them and the lender. But that's a really good advice. I think that if you're in our business, it's great to figure out what their why is. And then that way you can remind them when they get frustrated.
Simon Sinek.
So you're obviously a busy guy. You've got, the 75 brokers, you got your own book of business. So how do you balance running your business and your mortgage and your family?
It's tricky, but I mean, like I said, I'm not a workaholic like Dustin. I don't want to work 80 hours a week. I prefer to find ways to work as little as possible and still get the job done. So to me, I think it's bringing fun to work and making it so that you're having fun at work. I don't think work should always be drudgery and hard work. I think you have to put your nose down when you need to, but then let up and have some fun. I don't have a problem taking too much time off. I try. One of my goals is to be able to take a month off with nobody noticing. I still haven't gotten there, but those are the kind of goals I set for myself. So yeah, we're busy and we have lots going on, but to me, it's just part of my personality is I want to have fun. I don't want to make it all about work and making more money just for the sake of more money.
Right. And
I think, go ahead.
No. So what's the longest time you've been able to take off?
3 weeks.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to get to Australia soon, so probably that'll take 3 or 4 weeks. So that's probably the next big trip.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And that's having a team allows you to do that. Being that independent makes it it's really tough because
Garth Ellis always talked about the first time he hired an assistant and how terrified he was, and then how he couldn't believe once he had one assistant how he could have survived without one. So that's one area I really believe in is when you get your business to a certain level, don't be scared to take that next step and get the assistant or work as a partnership or whatever it is that works for you. But to me, that's a big part of our success is I couldn't do it all by myself. I know Sabina likes to do her stuff herself, and that's good. Everybody's different. That's the beauty of our business. But to me, having an assistant and having people we work with that can take some of the work off me, it makes my life way easier. So.
Right. No, that's great. That's great advice. And so another area that's been coming up a lot is this diversifying your income. And in my conversations with brokers, I seem to have two camps that are forming. One camp says, yes, absolutely, you need to diversify. And there's another camp who says, no, you need to just stick to mortgage brokering. So I want to know what your take is on diversifying. And if you are, what area do you focus on outside of the mortgages?
I'm a big believer in it. I think, let's face it, we built a relationship with that client, and the client trusts you. And if they trust you for the mortgage, of course they're going to trust you for other little things. And it doesn't mean you're going to sell everything all in one spot, but I think it gives you an excuse to talk to them about other options in their life. And that, to me, is important. You want to stay in contact. You want to keep talking to them. So, like, one product we've brought out is we're using Legal Shield. I don't know if you've heard of Legal Shield, but basically it used to be called prepaid legal, but you get access to a lawyer for any questioner you have, and you also get your will and power of attorney done. And it's $26 a month. It's just an ongoing charge. And then most of our clients, we find like 80-90% of them don't have wills in place. And so this is a great lead in to say, hey, do you have a will in place? No? Okay. And we use that as part of our follow-up now after the deal is closed to say we should get you set up so you can get your will and power of attorney in place. And to me, it's not like you're making a whole bunch of money off it, but it's more about using those products to keep you in touch with the client and build that fence around them more and more so that they come to you whenever they have a question, not the bank.
Right. And so a couple questions on that legal shield. So when do you introduce that in the process?
We drop seeds about it in the process. We have an email that talks about it. We mention it so they know they've heard about it, but we don't really sell it until after we close the deal.
Okay. And then what percentage of people are typically like interested in it?
Like 20%. It's not a huge. I think we've only brought it out in the last 4 or 5 months, so it's not like we've been pushing it really hard. But I think it's a product that the more they understand it, it's sort of a paradigm shift. You have to, most people will say, well, I don't ever call lawyers. Well, that's because they're $400 an hour and you wouldn't call them. But, imagine being like a CEO never makes a big decision without talking with legal counsel. And that's what this is like, is having a legal counsel available to you whenever you're going to make any kind of decision. I mean, a warranty on your dishwasher, if you have an issue, you can call the lawyer and ask them what they think and if they've got a legal position, or they'll even send a letter to the company to say that they don't feel that the warranty is being upheld or whatever the situation is. And that's all part of your $26 a month. So once you get people thinking about that, they go, yeah, okay. I mean, I have had an idiot neighbor and, we fought over the fence and who was going to pay for it. And, that kind of stuff it'd be nice to have a lawyer on your side and find out where your legal position is. And even just from an educational point of view, to understand things, it's a great little product.
Cool. Awesome.
So it's just one thing. Yeah. But overall, I think you're going to see the CFF model coming, and I think there's going to be people who buy into it and people who don't. I came from a credit union, so I worked in a branch, so I think I buy into that more than others maybe who never worked in a branch and don't see the benefits of that.
Right. No, that's true. Yeah, the CFF thing is definitely going to be very interesting as it continues to roll out. I'm kind of watching it and seeing how it's all going to play out. But
yeah.
So I'm going to move to the rapid fire questions. So you can answer these with a little shorter answers if you like. So what's the number one thing holding back most mortgage brokers from being successful?
I think the number one thing is getting face to face with clients and referral sources and asking for the business. Most people will find any excuse not to do that. They'll get in front of their computer and, like we talked about, get on Facebook and think, oh, I'm doing so much for my business because I'm liking everybody's stuff. And really that has nothing to do with the business. I mean, the number one thing is getting in front of somebody. And when you're in front of somebody and you ask them for business, you generally will get it. That and motivating themselves to work hard. We're all, we wake up unemployed every morning, and it's how you choose to deal with that separates the average, I think, from the successful.
I like that you wake up unemployed every morning. That's good. And so just as a side note, it's supposed to be the rapid fire questions, but you've tweaked my interest. So how do you specifically ask somebody for business? So let's say if I'm a realtor or a referral source that you're meeting with, what's your what language do you use?
I mean, with a client, what I say is, it's purely, I learned it from Joe Stump, but it's, it was a lot of fun working with you, and I'd love to have more clients like you. Is there something I could help that right now and that you could introduce me to? And most people are going to say, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's actually I like that how you worded that. I had a lot of fun working with you. And is there anyone you know right now that you can refer me to? That's. I think
the word there is help and introduce. So you don't say referral because that's a negative word. I think introduce is way warmer.
Right.
And help. I mean, we love, and you love helping clients, right? I mean, it's fun to help people either get out of debt or to put them in their first home or any of that. I mean, that's fun. And you want people to understand that. I think sometimes we just assume people know that that's what we want. I mean, when you help them get their home, they're actually waiting for you to tell them what you want. Because that's a natural human response. If you help me, I want to help you. And if you explain to them, hey, if you just tell me somebody else that could help, they're like, yeah, okay. And I think so often as Canadians, when they say, oh, thank you so much, and we go, no problem, that ruins that moment for them.
Right. That's awesome. That was that's extra bonus material that was in the rapid fire questions that wasn't on the plan, but I appreciate it. So, what one thing or habit do you think's made you successful?
Listening to people and empathizing. I think, using what you learn, like I talked about, asking more and more about what's really driving them. And if you listen to that carefully and you can use that later on and control, what can be ugly situations, you can control that and turn it into a good situation.
So do you have an internet resource or a software program you use that makes your business more successful?
Well, I mentioned our team uses Gmail for Business, which I think is awesome. Any team out there that's not using it should look into it. It has things like Google Drive, which is where we store compliance documents there and everybody can access it easily. Another one is Trello, which we use internally on my team, and it's it's a great little add-on to Gmail, and basically on my phone or on my computer, I can pull up and see exactly where all of our files are and what we have different stages that they're at, and see exactly there's notes in there, all that kind of thing. So it's really quick communication.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Trello and Gmail for business. So if you could recommend one book for our listeners, what would it be?
I think I'd say The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It just talks about if you really want to make more money, then every day spend 5 more minutes calling 2 more people, and don't expect an increase in pay, a week later, but 30 days or 90 days later, if you do that, you're going to be making more money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the whole compound effect, as he talks about making small choices early on and build it up.
We've had a couple people recommend that book, so I'll have to check it out. Where do you think our industry's headed? Where's the opportunity?
People get all worked up about these rate sites. I think they will succeed, but through hard work, there's huge opportunities for the rest of us to look after those people who aren't going to choose their mortgage like a jug of milk. They see it as a commodity, and there's going to be certain clients that see it that way, and they can have them. But to me, there's lots more that need help to manage their mortgage, and I think that's where we have to get better at explaining to clients how we don't just get them the mortgage, we manage it all the way through their life.
Mm-hmm. Right. So here's one of my favorite questions. It's the DeLorean. Remember the movie Back to the Future?
Mm.
And so the DeLorean's the car, you could travel in time. So if you could jump in the DeLorean and you could travel back to your first day as a mortgage broker 15 years ago, and you could give yourself 3 pieces of advice to have a even bigger business than you have right now, which is pretty substantial, what 3 things would you tell yourself?
Oh, hindsight's 2020. I guess I think to press on and persevere. Don't let off, the gas when things get pretty good. I think all of us can have one good month, and I know I did this early on, oh wow, I'm going to take some time off now and slow down, and all of a sudden you got to work really hard for 3 more months to build it back up again. And I think it's easy to look back and see where I lost focus, and so I guess keep your eye on the ball and just, stay hard on it and don't let off.
Okay, so that's one. So was that one, or that? So don't take your foot off the gas if you have a good month. Keep your eye on the ball. Yeah. What would be another thing you'd tell yourself?
Look at the big picture and don't get so caught up in day-to-day fires.
Okay, it's kind of like what you remind your clients of. You said when they're having a frustrating moment is to remind them the further down the road. So you got to do the same thing with yourself.
Totally. We get so caught up in, First National turned me down on this deal. I'm so mad, and we'll stamp around and phone 14 other brokers we know and get mad. And really, we just need to get back to work and get the deal approved and stay on the big picture, which is getting more deals through, not worrying about, that lender doesn't want to do that deal. It's not the end of the world.
Right. Just keep hustling.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I really appreciated your time today and your insights, and there's been some great stuff that you shared. So are you guys hiring?
Absolutely. We're always looking for great people.
And where can people find you online?
We have our company website, which is cmexp.com. And that's probably the best way to check us out. And otherwise, we'll see you out there.
Awesome. So anybody who's listening, you can get notes on this at ilovemortgagebrokering.com, links to Mike and his site. Mike, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you rock the rest of your year.
Oh, thanks so much, Scott. This is just a great service you're doing, and I think it's excellent for our whole industry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Broker Nation, Scott Beckford here. Have you joined our VIP club for mortgage brokers yet? If not, you're missing out. We share exclusive content not available on the web or the show. We share scripts, step-by-step guides, and other insider tips to help you save time and make you more money. I can't tell you how many times after I turn off the recorder, a guest starts sharing some awesome advice or a script or a tip, and I take the best of this and share it with my VIPs. If you want to get on the list, visit ilovemortgagebrokering.com/VIP. That's ilovemortgagebrokering.com/VIP. Oh, and one other thing. Since this is exclusively for mortgage brokers, there is a skill testing question. Good luck, and I hope you continue to rock your mortgage biz.